So question 9 says, graph the equation using a graphing calculator. Now notice this equation is in slope-intercept form. So we know that the slope is 228. So by definition, slope is going to be 228 over 1, if you will. So it's going to rise 228 and run just 1 unit. And the y-intercept is 572. So it's going to cross the y-axis at 572. So notice how it's kind of multiple choice. Notice how I look at these answers, A does not have the correct y-intercept. B does not have the correct y-intercept. C does have the correct y-intercept, it looks like, because it's above the x-axis. Now, does it have a rise of 228 and a run over 1? Well, this is called a positive slope. A positive slope will run in this direction. A negative slope will run in a downward direction, because remember, a positive slope is kind of an increasing concept. So notice how this graph, as you go from left to right, this graph is increasing. That's considered a positive slope. So notice how 228 is a positive slope. So that represents a positive slope. So C would be the answer. Notice that D, even though it does have the correct y-intercept, notice how it's going in a downward direction. That's actually a negative slope. So I actually don't necessarily have to use the graphing calculator to do it. But let's get some graphing calculator practice here. So to graph this on a graphing calculator, we have a y equals button on our calculator. So if it y equals, now mine, notice how I have this plot 1 turned on. That's something I do in statistics. So I have to go up there and highlight that and hit enter and turn that plot 1 off because that's statistics stuff. So now I can type in the equation. So notice how the y1 is really the y part. So really all I got to do is put the right-hand side in, 228, 228. The x, right next to the alpha key, I have this xt theta n. If I just hit that key there, it'll automatically put an x in for me. That's a quick way of putting an x in. And then plus 572. Now to graph it, notice how there's this viewing window here. So if you notice, right next to y equals, there's this window. These are the settings for the viewing windows. So what this is saying is the x min has got to be a -5. Well, that's not -5, so I got to change that. So -5 there. This x number is the maximum value for x, which is a 5. And then my scale is a 1. So what this means is it wants to count by ones, but the maximum value you're going to see is 5, and the minimum value you're going to see is a -5. So if you look at this graph over here, this actually means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the scale on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, -1. If I go the other direction, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So that's what this is just displaying, is this scale. Now, notice how the y view is a lot different. It's got a -700. So if I come down here to the y min, they want us to change that to a -700. And then the y max is a 700. And notice how they want us to count by 70 for some reason. So let's just put 70 in there. So they want to count by 70. The rest of this we don't have to worry about. So from there, all I have to do is hit the graph button, and it should accept those settings. Okay, so it does graph it. And notice that this does kind of mirror this a little bit, but notice that these tick marks here are going by 70s through here, so they're a lot tighter. But notice how that does match this graph here. So all these are my viewing window things. So if you see things like this, you actually got to go to the viewing window, and you have to change these settings here to appropriately see the graph the way they want you to see it.